So, RJ, what's your official title again?
So officially, I'm the Senior Product Evangelist at Adobe for eLearning and for technical communication. So that means that I evangelize on products like Adobe Captivate, the new Adobe eLearning suite, and also the technical communication suite. And then the other thing that I do, which I think people like, is internally at Adobe, I'm always asking the question, how does this apply to eLearning? And so, when Adobe Air came out, the Adobe Integrated Runtime came out. First question I ask is, how does this apply to Air? And last year I had a session on that, and I think I mentioned to you that just couldn't quite create that connection. And this year I had a better session, and I can talk a little bit about that. But when at Max we announced the Flash Player 10.1 for smartphones, I was asking myself, how does this apply to Flash Player? And I think it has to eLearning. And I think it has a great applicability to that. So that's what I do at Adobe.
So whenever there's something new at Adobe, your first thing is, how does this apply to E?
Exactly. So I talk to the Flash Player teams, I talk to the Air teams, I stay close to the Acrobat.com teams because that's our cloud computing story. And I'm always asking myself, how does this apply to eLearning and of course technical communication, which is the other thing that I do.
Awesome. So Adobe, obviously, we have a lot of Adobe tools internally. I think some of us use them to the level that they should, and others don't. Do you find that? I'm struggling with that question. How do you see an effective way to maximize the rapid development tools that you guys offer?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I think that's a challenge that most companies, have a hard time with. They have non-technical subject matter experts who want to contribute in some way, and I think everything we do at Adobe is with that in mind. I mean, one of the reasons why I truly believe Macromedia bought the company that made Captivate was because of Captivate. They felt that moving forward, people wanted to create content very quickly. We live in this area or in this age of user-generated content. Everybody's an author and so forth. So what we try to do is, even though we include Flash in the eLearning suite, obviously we understand that not too many eLearning professionals are Flash experts, but we do have easier products like Captivate, and we have Adobe Presenter. And with every new release, not only do we add tools that are easier for customers to use those tools, but we also add a lot of collaboration pieces, right? One of the things we added in Captivate 4 was the ability to easily distribute projects for review, and the end users or the reviewers, they didn't have to have Captivate on their systems. All they need is a free Adobe Air application, and it's saving tremendous time and money to our customers, and so we like that. So, we believe that customers don't have the luxury that they did before, 6 months to create a course. Information by then becomes completely obsolete. And so as vendors, we have that in mind, and we continue to ease the way with which people create e-learning content. That's why we have products like Captivate.
Awesome. So I have a long history with Adobe, and I have to ask you this question because I've never understood it. How do you know what I'm thinking? Because it seems like I have this idea. I wish my application would do this, and I would like to say that I've called you up, RJ, and I need this in Photoshop or whatever. But it seems like the next release, you guys put it in there or whatever. So you have this really great connection with your user base. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And we have a challenge at Adobe with so many products. And when we come out with Photoshop CS4 and people are blown away by some of the things that we can do, immediately the next question is, how can we top that? Because it's pretty tough, right? Some of the things that we do. And somehow we managed to do it, which is great, and that's how we keep going. Now, I'd like to believe in the fact that the community plays a big role in making that happen and moving that forward. And so we have user forums, we have user groups, we have a huge following, huge community. But I think what's really interesting and what's happening now, and we were talking about this before we rolled the tape, is that social media is going to make all of those things a lot easier. Because things that used to take you a long time to set up, user groups, focus groups, and forums, and read emails and all that. Now it's happening in real time, right? We were talking about Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I can literally send out a question to my eLearning followers and say, you know, do you record the audio when you're recording the screen in Captivate, or do you do it afterwards? I get instant feedback. If I'm testing something, I can send it out. Like I just did a couple weeks ago, I was testing a Flash widget that we created for a customer in Captivate so that they could actually send an HTML parameter to the Swift so that it would jump directly to slide 10 as opposed to 1. Within minutes, I was able to get at least 20 replies saying, I can help you test it. I mean, those are things that are just, you know, invaluable.
Absolutely.
And I think as vendors like Adobe, I think that's playing to our advantage, and we're definitely leveraging that. So that's probably how we know what people want.
You've been talking about some really cool things with Captivate. I've seen some of your blog posts. Tell me what's going on with Captivate right now.
Yeah, Captivate is, you know, is one of the most exciting applications that we have at Adobe. I would say that is one of the fastest growing products at Adobe. And the reason why is because Captivate isn't just for e-learning, although that's how we market it and that's where it excels. But we're finding people in tech support using Captivate to be able to tell their story in a much more visual way. We're finding people in documentation using Captivate because words sometimes can't explain complex tasks. So we have companies and we have industries across the world using Captivate, and that's one of the reasons why Captivate continues to, you know, be one of the best-selling products at Adobe. Now, where we are with Captivate, and this is something that I showed a sneak peek at the Learning Summit that took place on Monday, is one of the most requested feature that we get from the web about Captivate is to have it available on a Mac. And it makes perfect sense. And people might say, what took you guys so long? The reality is we've been working on that, and yesterday I was actually given the green light to do a recording, post it publicly, and it's the top post on my blog.
I'm personally very excited about that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to be. And I think when you go beyond just e-learning, like I said, although that's our main, main target, we have creative professionals that are using our creative suite. And when they get to that part where they like to use Captivate to create courses on what they do for internal use, you know, first thing we hear is, what do you mean Captivate is not on a Mac? So those are some of the things that we're bringing, and we are seeing lots of excitement out there. I think I was sharing with you that within a couple of hours, 1,000 people had viewed that recording that I did. I mean, that's amazing.
It's a good sign.
It's a great sign. So there's definitely a need for that.
Excellent. I'm excited. That's fantastic. So Captivate builds Swift files. And obviously you guys have a lot of great things in store for Flash.
Yes.
Mark and I both want to hear about Flash on mobile devices
Okay.
a little bit. So tell us about some of the exciting things in that area.
Yeah, and to me, I think when somebody says, what excites you the most for the next coming year, I say mobile. And our CEO has been quoted as saying that, I can't remember the exact figure, but we're talking billions, I think, of people that will have access to mobile. I think it's pretty well known and documented that a lot of people around the world will access the web using a mobile device as opposed to a desktop. So clearly this is a trend, it's happening, and Adobe wants to be a key part of that trend. And so what we did at Max a couple of, I think it's about a month or a month and a half ago in LA, one of the big announcements that we had was the upcoming availability of Flash Player 10.1 specifically for smartphones. And so we're really excited about that. And the reason why we're excited about that is, as you know, Flash is, you know, the most ubiquitous player in the world today. We have a figure, something like 99% of all computers connected to the internet have the Flash player.
Yeah, wow.
So to me, and this is just personal, I don't think that the web can be consumed fully unless you have the Flash player in any device, any system, anywhere, and so forth. So we want to take that ubiquity from the desktop and we want to extend it across every possible mobile device. So one of the things that we did is not only are we saying we're working on this and we have, signed up with all of our partners and so forth, but that's something we did a long time ago. I don't know if you know about a project that we've been working on, but it's called the Open Screen Project. And there's actually a site dedicated to that. And if you just type in openscreenproject.org, you'll find it. But we have something like 50 plus partners that are working with us. And they include people like, Google with the Android and even chip makers like Qualcomm and so forth, because we really want to provide the best possible experience. So we want to take that across devices, desktops, and so forth. That's our goal. That's our mission. And we basically committed to having a beta version up on Adobe Labs before the end of this year, before the end of 2009. And I believe we also committed to having devices shipping by mid-2010. So we are almost there. And when I was getting ready to or when I was learning about that information internally, again, I was asking myself, how does that apply to e-learning? In fact, I have a draft of this blog post that I'm putting together as to, what the Flash Player 10.1 means to e-learning, and I'm going to sort of break it down. But I think it's pretty simple, right? I mean, when you talk to e-learning professionals and you say, well, why Flash? Why do you develop on top of Flash? And typically the answer that I get is, they tell me it just works, right? Everybody has it. 99% of all computers have it. You can develop highly interactive experiences, which is what e-learning is about, as opposed to just passive video experiences. And so we want to be able to take that experience from the desktop over to mobile. So when you as an e-learning professional or as a creative professional create something in Flash format, you can rest assured that when you send it out to the world, people will be able to consume it in the way that you intended for that to be consumed. And that's exactly where we're headed, and we're really excited about that.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about Adobe Air.
Okay.
You gave a presentation last year that was really eye-opening. I thought that I got excited about the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you were talking about.
Yes.
Is the possibilities. You guys have another year under your belt, and I think you're seeing some traction. Tell us about some cool things.
Absolutely. So to break it down, Adobe Air stands for the Adobe Integrated Runtime. And it's a free runtime. And people sometimes think of it in terms of Flash Player being a runtime, or PDF Reader being a runtime, or QuickTime being a runtime. To me, I don't think the word runtime does Air any justice. Because I think of Air as a platform. Not only does the Air platform have the Flash Player built in, but it has connectivity to the PDF Reader as well. So quickly, people began to realize the potential, and they started building applications on top of it. And I'll give you two examples. The first one is just about everybody that's on Twitter uses TweetDeck. It's the #1 Twitter client for the desktop. So what a lot of people don't realize is that TweetDeck is built on top of Adobe Air. And the advantages that TweetDeck gets for their customers is that they were able to build the application one time based on Adobe Air technologies, and they can deploy it out, the same application, to customers on Windows, on Mac, and on Linux. One shot, people get it all.
Wow.
The great thing about that, in fact, there's a great interview of the CEO and founder of TweetDeck, and he was being interviewed by one of our Air evangelists. And the evangelist basically said, well, why Air? And he says, I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but TweetDeck would not be possible if it were not for Adobe Air. Because we're a small company. We don't have the luxury of having, developers develop for Windows and another application for Linux and another application for Mac. So literally, TweetDeck would not exist if it were not for Adobe Air. I thought, wow, this guy just said it best. So that's exciting. So coming back to how that works, and I'll give you another example too. One of the most successful Air applications out there today is the Times Reader application. It's based on Adobe Air. It's from the New York Times, and it's the most beautiful application out there, I would say. People agree with that. It's impressive. Not only can you download the latest news to your desktop, PC, Mac, Linux. But you can actually store enough information to give you the news for the past 7 days. So if you didn't have time to read the news yesterday, you can still catch up, which is great. But the great thing about Adobe Air is the offline-online synchronization. And I always give the example. If you go to London from the US, it's going to be a good 10-hour flight. You want to bring the news with you. Now, if you go to nytimes.com, you have to be connected. But the great thing about Air is that before you get on a plane, you plug in your laptop to the internet and you download the very latest news from the New York Times site to your desktop in a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing experience. You then disconnect, you pack your laptop, you put it in your bag, you get on a plane, and as soon as you're done with whatever it is you do at the beginning, you start reading your news. It's locally available. The great thing about it is once you get to London, to your hotel, you can plug back in, and then Air will realize you have a connection, and it'll update whatever news happened when you were on the plane. Excellent. That's beautiful. So again, you know, when Air came out, I started asking myself, how does this apply to eLearning? And last year, the session that you mentioned, I felt that it was more of a Adobe Air 101 for eLearning professionals. I felt that I didn't really have a connection. But I think we have now one. And to me, I think it's going to fill a gap that is a current challenge. And if you look at eLearning today and you're a learner, you pretty much have to be connected to take a course, right? Because you have to, the course is connected to the learning management system, no cheating allowed, so to speak. You have to take the course, click submit, and then you can unplug. Well, what happens to the flight to London, where, you know, maybe before you left, you go to the intranet on your site, and there's a mandatory HR course that you have to take. And you say, you know, how great would it be if I could spend maybe an hour on the plane on my way to Europe, take the course, and then send it to the LMS so that HR would know that I did in fact take that course. That's exactly what Air can allow us to do. Excellent. So on Monday at the Learning Summit, I gave a sneak peek of this project that we're working on. It's codenamed Lima. And it's based on an Adobe Air application that will be able to connect to our LMS, which is Connect Pro. It's going to be able to allow you to select the courses that you want to take on the go, if you will. And they're going to sync up to your desktop through Air. Now, once Air feels that you're disconnected, you have those courses locally available. You're going to be able to be on the plane, take the courses, go through the Captivate files, Adobe Presenter, synchronous, asynchronous, whatever you need. And we're going to store that because Air has direct access to a SQL database and also XML. And we're going to store that. We're not going to allow the learner to cheat, find the files anywhere. And then the great thing about it is once you get to the hotel and you plug into the internet, Air is going to sense that connectivity and it's going to ask you, would you like to submit these to the LMS? Now you hit yes, they go back, HR is happy, you comply with that training, and you know, life is good. Perfect. So that's where we see Air. And when I was showing that, I started by showing the Times Reader because I thought it would create a connection, and it did work. People saw, you know, online, offline. And that's a challenge that I think everybody's facing today.
That's exciting. I wish I could have consumed a couple of courses that I'm required to take on the plane down here. Let's talk a little bit about Presenter because we use Presenter quite a bit internally.
Yep.
I think there's opportunities there for us to use it more and better. What kind of exciting things are happening with Presenter that we want to know about?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, if I were to look at an application that needs to be evangelized more, I would point to Presenter. So Presenter is a great product. It extends PowerPoint to allow for more interactivity, to create e-learning courses in the Adobe Flash format, which is what we want to do. And the great thing about Presenter is that, again, you don't have to be pretty technically savvy, right? It adds itself either as a ribbon in PowerPoint 2007 or as a menu in 2003. Once you have it, you can add video to your presentations. You can add voiceover. You can sync up the voiceover to the PowerPoint animations. Being an Adobe product, it has tight connectivity to Captivate simulations, for example. We also have the quizzing capabilities built in. You don't have to get anything extra to do that. And we also generate to PDF, which is something that, because we're Adobe, we do that easily. Yeah. So again, we go back to that idea of offline or locally available PDF. Now, just coming back to the exciting things that I see about Presenter is that for a long time it was part of the Connect Pro offering. That was the only way you could get it. And I think with the introduction of the eLearning suite, one of the first things we did is we said, no, that's not going to work. So we took it from the Connect team. It is in the eLearning suite, and now it's going to begin to be integrated with some of the other products like Captivate is today. Excuse me, today. Because one of the things that we do at Adobe and we're well known for is tight integration between our products. So you can expect to see a lot more of that. You can expect to see some of the things that people request is they like the text-to-speech feature in Captivate, and immediately they say, where is that in Presenter? So because it's now within our team, you can expect some pretty amazing things to be done around Presenter.
So what's the eLearning suite again?
So the eLearning suite is made up of 9 applications, and it all starts with Captivate being the cornerstone of the suite. We believe that that's where people develop. That's where they can, record the screen, quizzes, scenario-based training, and so forth. The second product is Adobe Flash, and where we see Flash fitting in is in supplementing Captivate with animations. But we also see it in extending Captivate, because Captivate now has a feature called Flash Widgets. These are reusable objects created in Flash to take Captivate beyond. And then there's Adobe Presenter, which I talked about. Dreamweaver is there as well. We also have Sound Booth, which is an audio editing tool for audio in eLearning. We also have Acrobat 9 Pro, which allows you to do PDFs. And we also have another tool that not too many people know about, and it's called Device Central. And Device Central is basically a mobile device emulator. Now, as it stands today, it only supports a flashlight platform and not the full Flash. But as one would expect, with the announcement of the Flash Player 10.1, that's where we're moving. So when I talk about the eLearning suite, one of the key takeaways to me is that it's a very complete eLearning toolbox. And I think we were talking about how eLearning professionals, perhaps in a great part because of the economy, have to wear multiple hats, right? Maybe we don't have the luxury of having a designer handy to help us out. And so suddenly you have to become the designer. Well, you have Photoshop for that. Maybe we don't have the luxury of having an animator. Well, you have Flash for that. And so our goal was to, we did a lot of research, we talked to a lot of eLearning professionals, and we said, what are the tools that you're using today? And how are you using it? And how can we speed up your development process? And that's one of the reasons why Flash in the eLearning suite has what we call the learning interactions, which are basically a preset of question slides, if you will. So if you're authoring in Flash, why go to another product just to bring in quiz? If you're authoring in Dreamweaver, we have what we call course builder interactions. So a key takeaway of the eLearning suite is that we didn't just take these products from the creative suites and then we bundled them in a different product with a better price tag. We really did a lot, and I think people are beginning to appreciate and realize a lot of the eLearning specific functionality that's in the suite. So we're excited about that.
Excellent. I've recently become a lot more comfortable using Adobe Bridge. I think that's one of those, it's something that whenever you have a suite,
yeah,
it's there.
It's there.
And as far as workflow goes,
yes,
it really enhances how to kind of use those tools all together.
Yeah. And actually, I forgot to mention Bridge, as you would expect, it's in the suite. But I recently got a new MacBook Pro. And one of the first things that I did was I went to our intranet and downloaded Photoshop Elements, right, for hobby stuff. And I was so pleasantly surprised when I launched it because Bridge is actually part of Photoshop Elements. Now, I was blown away by that idea because one of the things that I love about Adobe is the way in which we leverage technologies from one side of the company across the rest of the company. And Adobe Air is a great example of that. Bridge is a great example of that. PDF is a great example. Flash is a great example. You know, one of the things that our CEO always talks about is every team needs to figure out how to leverage a technology across the company. And Air was a great example. You know, we quickly went to work and we started building the Adobe Captivate reviewer application. It's an Air app. We went to work and we started on the RoboHelp side, we created Adobe Air Help, right? So all these things began to make sense. So when people ask about, you know, when they're looking at tools from a competitive standpoint, and they say, well, why should I choose Adobe? Why should I choose Adobe Presenter versus the competition? And I always talk about the intangibles, right? And I think anybody can create a PowerPoint plugin, if you will. But I think what works for Adobe is the fact that when you buy our tools, you're not just buying Captivate or Adobe Presenter. You're buying the intangibles. You're buying Adobe Air technologies. You're buying exciting new things that we're working on, you know, on the labs. And to me, I think that's the exciting part. We have over 100 applications today. We have hundreds of Adobe technologies, and eventually these applications will make it to our customers. And so in the end, they're the ones that really benefit from that work that we do.
Agreed. Absolutely. So what do you like about coming to the eLearning Guild?
Yeah, I love the eLearning Guild. You know, I love DevLearn. I love the Learning Summit. I think we talked about this, but I love the energy. I love the energy. There are so many, you know, great things out there that are happening. Social media is happening. Mobile learning is happening. And it's not until you are in the middle of a crowd that thinks the same way that you do and that is looking at the same things that you're doing that you really get to fully enjoy, you know, what you're excited about. I think we all have friends and, you know, our wives or partners or what have you, and we can talk to them, but if they're not in that same field, you know, they say that sounds exciting. But it's not until you come to these conferences and actually have lunch with these people and go to sessions and you hear what they're working on and some of the challenges. I personally go back and I'm fully energized, right? At some point I'll even go up to my room and I'll do a recording. I'm inspired to do a blog post. I'm inspired to tweet. You know, and I go back and I'm re-energized with what I do because I know that I'm in the right direction and I can go back and share with Adobe, you know, we are moving in the right direction. Let's keep it going. This is exactly how our industry feels about it. And so to me, I think that's what makes coming to DevLearn really worthwhile.
Kind of your finger on the pulse.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, I sure appreciate your time, and it's been fun chatting with you again and sharing ideas and energy, and looking forward to another great year and seeing you next year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right.